Better late than never, right? NHL regular season recap, night 178. A bunch of games last night. I was at the Flyers game, and I was paying attention to all the other games at the end of the night last night, so that is my excuse for not having this up until probably 4 p.m. the day following, so apologies for that. We kick it off with a banger yesterday. The Rangers taking on the Islanders. Some big seeding stuff going on here in this game. The Rangers trying to get the 2 points to stay above the Hurricanes. The Islanders, of course, trying to lock in a playoff spot, and, of course, push themselves even closer towards, just being that firm wild card Metropolitan 3 spot. And of course, if the Islanders beat the Rangers here and the Canes win today, they'd flip-flop, and this would be the playoff matchup in round 1, which is really the only way I'd really want to watch the Islanders in the playoffs. But nonetheless, no goals in the first. Schneider and Nelson twice in the second make it 2-1 Isles after 2. But Panarin, who else, in the third, makes it a 2-2 game with just over 4 minutes to go. His 48th of the year. He is going crazy. We head to the overtime where nothing goes. The Islanders kind of dominated to outshoot the Rangers 4-0, but nothing past Shesterkin here. We head to the shootout, and Panarin and Trocheck are the 2 goal scorers. It's a 3-2 shootout victory for the Blue Shirts. Both goalies were fantastic in this game, as expected. Shesterkin, 34 of 36, a 9.44. Sorokin, 41 of 43 for a 9.53. Just gives up the extra 2 in the shootout, making it a 3-2 win for the Rangers. I really hope this is the playoff series that the Islanders get in. I do not want to see another Canes-Islanders series. But nonetheless, the Rangers win this round 3-2. The Stars hosting the Kraken. Nothing really too crazy in this game. Smith in the first, Robertson on the power play in the second, Heiskanen and Yamamoto trading goals in the third. It's a 3-1 final. Jake Ottinger gives up 1 on 27 shots. That's a 9.63 save percentage. Grubauer was okay, just not quite good enough. Didn't get a lot of goal support. 27 of 30 for a 900. The Stars take this one easily. They have the division in their hands. They're just kind of cruising until we get to the first game of round 1. 3-1 here over Seattle is the final. The Avalanche hosting the Jets in a preview of the only known round 1 series so far in the entire playoffs, and it did not go well for the home team here. Colorado gets spanked in this one, 7-0 by Winnipeg. Sean Monahan, Gabe Vilardi, Josh Morrissey, and Adam Lowry all scoring in the first. That's the end of Alex Georgiev's night. He gives up 4 on 15 for a 7.33 save percentage. Justus Annunen comes in and faces the rest of the 11 Winnipeg shots, and he gives up 3 goals on those 11 shots. It's not a good game for either goalie here for Colorado. Toffoli, Monahan with a second, and Lowry with a second, all in the second period, rounding out that 7-0 final for Winnipeg. And of course, Connor Hellebuck had a very good night. 30 for 30. The Avs actually outshoot Winnipeg despite losing 7-0, but the probable Vezina winner shuts it down once again. 30 for 30 for him, and it's a 7-0 final for the Jets in the preview of the 2v3 seed in the Central Division. The Panthers hosting the Sabres, and after a bit of a shaky start for Bobrovsky in this one, he ends up slamming the door and getting the victory. UPL was also very good in this one. Got to give him credit where credit is due. All the goals in regulation coming in the first period. It's Jost with his third 3 minutes in. Lundell scores 2 minutes later to tie us at 2. Stenlund scores shorthanded to make it 2-1 Panthers, and a minute and 40 later, Jack Quinn on the power play, that same power play, scores to tie us at 2. And again, those are the only 4 goals in regulation. UPL and Bobrovsky both very, very good through regulation, stopping 26 of 28 respectively for Bob. And then, what's the math here? Like 38 of 40 for Lukin in regulation. He had a crazy game once again. But in the overtime, a minute to go, Sam Reinhart, his 55th of the year, makes it a 3-2 win for Florida. Again, UPL fantastic in this one. Gives up the 1 extra in overtime, but still 39 of 42 for a 9.29. And Bob, with the 1 extra shot he faces in overtime, 27 of 29 for a 9.31. It's a 3-2 win here in Florida for the Panthers. The Flyers hosting the Devils here, and this again was the game I went to, and maybe the least exciting game of the night. It's a 1-0 final, only 41 shots between the two teams, and the only goal comes from Travis Konechny, shorthanded, his 33rd of the year, midway through the second period. A 1-0 win here for Philly. It was a nice little feed from Scott Laughton. Got to give credit where credit is due there. But other than that, it was a story of Sam Ersson shutting the door. I actually thought Kaapo Kähkönen was the better of the 2 goalies. He had some great saves, despite Philly only having 21 shots. They had some pretty good chances, especially in tight to the net. A couple backhand opportunities that they just could not squeak by him. But nonetheless, a great performance from Ersson, despite not facing the most dangerous of chances. Keeps his team's playoff hopes alive. It's a 1-0 victory for Philadelphia over New Jersey. The Capitals hosting Tampa Bay, an equally important game for them as that Flyers game was for the Flyers. Trading goals in the first, it's Milano with his 14th, Duclair with his 23rd, Milano scoring again for his 15th, and then Brendan Hagel scoring his 25th to tie us up at 2 after the first frame. We go silent in the second, and then in the third, about 8.5 minutes in, it's John Carlson on the power play that makes it a 3-2 lead for Washington, and another few minutes after that, Nick Dowd's 11th of the year puts the dagger in the bolts. It's a huge 4-2 win for Washington. Charlie Lindgren, as has been the story all year, was fantastic once again. 32 of 34 for a 941. Vasilevsky, 30 of 34 for an 882 in the losing effort. The Bolts are pretty much locked in to that first wild card spot, and the Caps, of course, have the second one for the time being, but a huge game for them coming up on Monday against Boston. The Leafs hosting the Red Wings, another massive game for the playoffs here. Marner opens the scoring, and then the rest of the first period belongs to to the Red Wings, but you could throw DeBrincat in there too. He scores twice. Simon Edvinsson and David Perron also scoring to make it 4-1 Red Wings after one. But the second period belonged to Toronto. It's Nick Robertson, Austin Matthews with his 69th, very nice there, and John Tavares with his 27th. And just like that, we are tied up at 4. No goals in the third, despite 28 shots between these two teams in the third frame. We head to OT, and the only shot of the overtime, Dylan Larkin, 41 seconds in on the power play, bangs it home off a little deflection shot from Patrick Kane, and it's a massive 5-4 win for the Red Wings. They would have liked to get this one in regulation, as they're tied and very tight with 4 other teams out east to try to get that final wildcard spot, but they'll take the 2 points one way or another. It's a massive 5-4 victory for them in Toronto over the Leafs. The Senators hosting Montreal, and I actually didn't watch a lick of this game, but it looks like it was pretty entertaining based on the box score here. Matheson and Tkachuk trading goals in the first. Caulfield scoring twice. Pinto in between the two makes it 3-2 Montreal after 2. And then in the third, it's more back and forth. Tkachuk, Newhook, and Shabbat all scoring to make it a 4-4 game at the end of the third. We head to overtime. 5 shots between the two teams, none of them going in, and then in the shootout, the only goal scorer is Drake Batherson on Caden Primo. It's a 5-4 victory for the Sens. Primo was fantastic in this one. He goes 40 for 44. The Sens shelled him, but did his best to hold it down, just not able to stop as many as needed in the shootout. Jonas Korpisalo was not all that good, 21 of 25, the much quieter of the two goalies, but he ends up getting it done in the shootout, going 3 for 3, and it's a 5-4 win for the Sens over the Habs. In a game that really doesn't mean all that much. On Monday and Tuesday, though, the Habs have 2 massive games against Detroit. The Penguins hosting the Bruins, and this was a massive game, of course, for the Penguins and for the Bruins. The Bruins trying to lock up the first seed in the Atlantic Division. The Penguins trying to stay alive in the Eastern Conference race. And the second period was the big one here. DeBrusk, Zacha, Rust, Shattenkirk, Marchand, and Bunting all scoring to make it 4-2 Bees after 2. But Drew O'Connor scores shorthanded 4.5 minutes into the third to make it a 1-goal game, and we go 10 minutes without any more scoring. It's a very tight-gripped game here, but Morgan Geekie, with 6 minutes to go, makes it 5-3. Heinen scores to make it 6-3, and then Malkin, with 1.5 minutes to go, scores to make it a little more respectable at 6-4. It's a tough game for the Penguins all around. Neither goalie for them had a great night. Nedeljkovic gets pulled, Jari in relief, 12 of 14 and 8.57. Allmark wasn't fantastic either, but does enough to get it done, 28 of 32 for an 8.75, and most importantly, the 2 points here. It's a tough loss for the Penguins. They're now a sliver behind the other two teams in the East in Detroit and Washington, but still a chance to keep it alive on Monday night against the Predators. 6-4 Boston here is the final. The aforementioned Nashville Predators taking on the Columbus Blue Jackets. This game does not mean all that much. I think the Preds are locked into that number 1 wildcard spot, and they looked like a playoff team facing a non-playoff team in this one. The Blue Jackets score first. Malatesta, I believe that's his first NHL goal, and then Novak, Yossi, and a second from Tommy Novak make it 3-1 Preds after 1. They continue to play very well in the second. Glass, Texier, Forsberg, and another from Yossi make it 6-2 after 2. Fix Wolansky would score twice, his first 2 of the year, in the third period to once again make it a bit more respectable, but the Predators do hang on. It's a 6-4 victory. Yossi and Tommy Novak, the two carrying the weight in this one, each with 2 goals. Yossi with 2 assists as well, Novak with 1. Luke Evangelista had a 2-assist game also, and then UC Saros. The stats don't look great for him, but he held it down when he needed to, 31 of 35 for an 8.86. Jet Greaves was busy in this one, but not one of his better nights of late, 31 of 37 for an 8.38 in the losing effort. It's a 6-4 win here for the playoff-bound Nashville Predators. The Canucks taking on the Edmonton Oilers, a battle for the top spot in the Pacific Division. The Oilers have climbed all the way back, and partially thanks to the Canucks not having played all that great over the last month, but they end up getting it done in a pretty good little statement game tonight. All of their depth guys, the ones providing the scoring. Sam Lafferty with 15 seconds left in the first, Pius Suter in the second, Evander Kane makes it a 1-goal game, and then in the third, Dakota Joshua gets the empty netter, and that's all the scoring. It's a 3-1 final between two teams that know how to fill up the nets, but Casey DeSmith and Stuart Skinner were both pretty good. DeSmith, though, the better of the two. 32 of 33, a 970, maybe his best game since Thatcher Demko's injury. Skinner was 24 of 26. He did well, just a rare occasion of not getting goal support from the Edmonton Oilers. They are, of course, without Connor McDavid probably until the playoffs, but not able to get it done tonight. It's a nice little 3-1 win for the Canucks, who will likely clinch the division here, assuming they don't go 0-2 and the Oilers don't go 2-0. 3-1 is the final. The Sharks hosting the Minnesota Wild, a game that really doesn't mean much for either of these two teams, but unfortunately for the Sharks, the Wild coming off a clapping at the hands of the Vegas Golden Knights, so they come into this game pretty mad, and it kind of showed. Boldy, Ruda, and Chisholm scoring in the first, Ogren, Ferraro, and then 2 from Kaprizov in the second, makes it 5-2 Minnesota after 2. Johansson adds one a minute 45 into the third to make it 6-2, and that is where this game would basically end. Mackenzie Blackwood was very busy in this one, 32 of 38 for an 842, while Jesper Wallstedt was not incredibly busy, 27 of 29 and 931. I thought he looked pretty good in this one. Good to see from the Wild prospect, who's looked very good in the AHL all year, but seems to struggle a bit whenever he gets the call-up. So good to see from him. Another solid game from Kaprizov, Faber, Boldy, all the big guys here in Minnesota getting it done. It's a 6-2 shellacking of the San Jose Sharks after getting beat up by Vegas. Final game of the night here, the Kings taking on the Anaheim Ducks, that California rivalry, and the Kings here really just looking to steer clear of the Vegas Golden Knights, trying to extend their lead in the standings, and they're able to do so. No scoring in the first, Dubois and Roy both scoring in the second. Zegras makes it a 1-goal game about halfway through the third, but with just under 3 minutes to go, it's Kevin Fiala's 29th of the year that makes it a 3-1 game and pretty much puts the dagger in Anaheim. Riddick got the start tonight for the Kings. He was pretty solid, 28 of 29 for a 966 to Stahl. Once again, struggles when he doesn't face like 40-plus shots, 25 of 28 for an 893. He didn't play badly, but it seems like he has a 930-plus every time he faces 40 or more shots, and tonight only 28, so they lose 3-1, and that is it for NHL regular season recap night 178. 4 games tonight, a pretty big one here between Colorado and Vegas actually going on now. We'll see if the Avs can rebound from their rough game last night. The other 3 games kind of inconsequential, so we will talk to you guys in a little bit to cover those. Have a good one.